Blue Water Dive Travel. I am Mark Strickland. This is,
Hi, I'm Ron Watkins.
and once again, welcome to our ongoing series of dive travel webinars. Today, we're going to be covering the Southern Philippines, specifically Cebu, Bohol, and Dumaguete. But before we get too far into that, just looking forward a little bit, we have another seminar coming up, webinar on the Socorro Islands on August 4th. After that, the Sea of Cortez on August 20th. And then the Galapagos, yet to be announced, but forthcoming soon as well. So we hope that you'll be able to join us for any or all of those. But in the meantime, just moving on a little bit, just a couple words about our Blue Water family here. And we do think of ourselves as kind of a big family, usually happy to. First of all, it all kind of started with the Underwater Photography Guide. And this is an ongoing, very active, dynamic website, which is all about learning about underwater photography in all respects, not only techniques, but equipment reviews, destination reviews, latest news. It's kind of the clearinghouse for information of all kinds about all things underwater photography.
I not only contribute to it, but I use it a lot as a resource as well. And I always encourage my students to use it because it's a great place to go first stop.
Indeed, it really is kind of just about anything to do with underwater photography.
Absolutely.
You can find out about it there. Also, Blue Water Photo, which is the equipment side of things, and that's where I spend most of my time. We deal with all sorts of underwater photography equipment, housings, cameras, strobes, lenses, everything to do with actually capturing the images underwater, video too. And then, of course, Blue Water Dive Travel, which is once you've got all this knowledge and great equipment, the idea is to get out there and have a lot of fun using it.
It's the only way you're going to get better.
That's right. And not to mention, it's just plain fun. In fact, that's what a lot of us here kind of live for, is the chance to not only be underwater, but especially in cool, exotic places.
Absolutely. Always plan on my next trip.
Indeed. So learn, shoot, and explore. That's kind of our mantra around here. So for today's webinar, we want to talk about, well, why should we go to the Southern Philippines? A general overview. When to go, what's the best time of year, what we're likely to see there, and then getting into the more specifics of the three main areas we're going to talk about, which are actually three large islands, Cebu, Bohol, and Dumaguete. Also, any of our escorted trips that we'll be talking about here are organized as photography workshops. So you'll have a knowledgeable expert there to help you get the best possible results and have a lot of fun while you're doing it.
And then my favorite part, travel specials.
Indeed.
Always like a discount on travel, so that's always good. And then we'll have some questions and answers.
So why visit the Philippines? Certainly one of my favorite places to dive in the world. I think Ron.
Absolutely. It really has something for everyone, from macro, it's got your black sand, your critter hunters, to wide angle. And you're going to see some of the photos that we have and some of the destinations that actually specialize in each of those. But on most of the dive sites, you could go either lens and not go wrong. Except I probably wouldn't go macro with the thresher sharks.
Well, not that there wouldn't be good macro things
there
to shoot, but just as Ron was saying, even at many of the dive sites, you'd be hard pressed to choose strictly macro or wide angle. But certainly for any of the regions, I think it's safe to say that any of these main regions in the Philippines have plenty of opportunities for both large and small creatures, great scenery, and individual animals.
Absolutely, and it's not just what's below the water, but the topside activities. There's great excursions to different forests, cities. The people are incredible. I've always been treated so nicely when I've been over there. And I've traveled also with non-divers, snorkelers, and just people who like exploring and traveling, and they've had just as much fun. So it's a great place to bring the family as well.
Absolutely, and I think that's something that may be kind of overlooked in general about our photo expeditions. They are very much photo-oriented, but we certainly don't want non-photographers to feel left out.
No, absolutely not. And my last one just got back from French Polynesia. We had people who didn't dive, and we also had people that didn't take photos, and I think everyone on the trip had a really good time. But the last bullet is my personal favorite, Why Philippines, where you'll have an opportunity to dive with me coming up early next year. We're going to talk about those two trips coming up, but it's going to be one of our Blue Water photo and travel workshops.
Indeed, and certainly that's, Ron's got a wonderful itinerary lined up. I'm sure he's going to tell you more about it. My only complaint is that there's not room for me to go to.
There's always
So when to dive Cebu, and this is true not only of Cebu but really southern Philippines in general. By the way, there's good diving available there year-round, but in general we try to concentrate on the very best times of year in terms of not only visibility but weather in general and so on. And that is basically what in the northern hemisphere we consider the winter months, from October through June. Generally, the best, most reliably good conditions. July through September can have strong monsoonal conditions, and also the chances of cyclones generally increase at that time of year. That's not to say that it's not worth going if you happen to have time off during that period. Generally, it's fine then too. But in terms of our group expeditions, we generally arrange for them.
My last trip out there actually was in November, and it was phenomenal diving conditions because that's also when some of the mating behaviors. So there's different things going on there year round. It's if you have the opportunity, definitely go.
Indeed, visibility, like a lot of places, it does vary widely, and not only in terms of seasonally, but actually from one dive site to the next, and from one day to the next, it can be kind of from one end of the scale to the other. It's seldom really bad, but some of the inshore muck diving sites, it might be as limited as, say, 30 feet. It's often 80 or 100 feet or more, sometimes even exceeding that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always warm and comfortable, depending on what you consider warm and comfortable. I'm a total tropical wimp, but even for me, there's seldom an occasion that I would be cold in the Philippines. But it is worth asking us, specifically in terms of the dates that you're going about exposure protection. And
typically 3 mil is my go-to for there, but I know some people that'll wear 5 and some people that'll dive shorty, so it's all up to the individual, but it's pretty warm water.
Yeah, generally 75 to 80 degree water temperature within that range. So just to help you get a little better handle on the geography, this is sort of the big picture view of where the Philippines are in the world. Of course, they're just to the east of mainland Southeast Asia.
Over 7,000 islands.
Yes, so not a small place, huge area, but generally just to the east of Southeast Asia and very much in the tropics. Looking a little bit closer, these are still huge islands, but narrowing it down to the 3 main islands that we're talking about today. And each of them has its own unique characteristics and attractions. How do we get there? Well, it is from the mainland USA, involves at least one fairly lengthy flight across the Pacific, generally into one of the 3 main gateways, either Manila, Singapore, or Seoul, Korea, but there may be others available as well. And from there, generally one more connecting flight either into Cebu City, or it could be, depending on your eventual destination, either Bohol or Dumaguete City as well. And just a few glimpses of the kind of scenery and highlights that you can expect once you get there. This first section referred to Malapascua Island, which is I think probably safe to say, a real favorite for both of us. We were there on separate occasions. Personally, I cannot wait to get back. It is the picture of an idyllic tropical island, just so you can easily walk around it in an hour or so, ringed by white sand beaches and coconut trees, quite low profile, very much a sleepy tropical getaway kind of feel to it. Superb diving for both big animals and small, and a very friendly, laid-back kind of atmosphere.
And this image here actually is a small island just off of Malapascua that you'll often do a day dive out to. And this is an image from one of our customers, Jan, who was just with me on the French Polynesia trip. And he's got a few images. It's always good to have some of our customers' images, especially when they're better than ours.
Well, indeed. And I think safe to say that every participant that makes any effort at all comes away from these workshops with vastly improved image quality and coverage of the areas that we visit.
But this is really the reason that people, I think of Malapascua is the thresher sharks. It's one of the only places in the world you can reliably have encounters with them.
Perhaps the only one, really.
I think it probably is the only one. And they are really just amazing animals. They're, I think of them as a cartoon character looking shark from their face and their over-exaggerated tail. They're beautiful animals to photograph, very, very artistic. A little bit different in the photography. You'll notice no strobes or flashes has been my experience.
Right. And that is actually a rule there at Malapascua, and very much for the benefit of the animals, because they, as you can see, they have huge eyes. They're very light sensitive, They're very shy animals. In fact, the only time that they can be seen, with rare exceptions, is right at sunrise, and from sunrise to about, maybe 30 minutes after sunrise on the edge of a deep seamount, and they come up from the great ocean depths to be cleaned at cleaning stations there. And so you can imagine for animals that are used to living in such deep, dark waters with huge eyes, they're very light sensitive. So I think it's a very positive step that they have done away with strobes. The good news is nowadays the modern digital cameras are far more capable in low light situations than they used to be, and it's possible to get very high quality images.
Crank up that ISO and you'll be set.
It's not just about the thresher sharks, although to me that's ample reason to go there alone. To be in probably the only place in the world with reliable thresher shark sightings, but plenty of cool smaller creatures as well, including an opportunity to see mandarin fish courting and mating, as we see here.
A lot of different nudibranch species I've encountered there, just a lot of cuttlefish and other species. This is another nice shot by Jan with two, I believe it's a Hypsilodoris balaki or similar to that, and just a beautiful picture, and these are the type of things that you see there very frequently. So definitely want to bring your macro, your 60 or your 100.
Seahorses, ghost pipefish, bumblebee shrimp, you name it. Just about every sort of exotic small critter can be found.
And lots of options, places to stay. Thresher shark divers, dive outfit that has partnerships with a lot of the accommodations there. So they've got a wide range of accommodations, and they'll take you out, as Mark mentioned, first thing before crack of dawn, and it's a little bit of a boat ride out to where they're at, but a very first-class organization.
Evolution Dive Resort, another one of our partners there. Small, friendly, owner-operated resort. 16 rooms, choice of air conditioning or fan. Also home to one of the most highly rated restaurants in the region. And top-of-the-line facilities for not only regular open circuit diving, but even rebreathers and tech divers.
Yeah, I've had friends that have, when I was living in Singapore, that went over there and did a lot of tech diving.
Oh, right.
Love the safety and
in fact, that's one thing I'm actually a bit envious. I'm not a rebreather diver, but thresher sharks would be one situation where that would be a real advantage.
Be really good. So our next destination is one you've dove before quite a bit.
Yes, Moalbal, and that's the experience that I've had there has been liveaboard based, which is a great option with the Siren fleet as they move amongst from one of the best dive areas to the next, and so on. Certainly gives you the most flexibility in terms of different dive sites in one trip. Pescador Island was certainly a highlight in that region, especially known for schooling fish like these sardines and other bait fish that gather in the protection of the island, which of course attracts anytime you have schooling bait fish, you have predators that show up to feed on them, including on occasion even thresher sharks are seen rounding up there. And by the way, you might have been wondering about that beautiful long graceful tail of the thresher shark. Well, that's what they use it for, is for rounding up the bait fish, smacking them and
stun them.
Yep. So I've not seen that in action, but I would sure love to. And it's not just about the big animals there. There's beautiful reefs and walls at Pescador Island
and
as well.
Turtles all throughout this area. Green, hawksbill. We've seen a lot of turtles on there of all different sizes. Some pretty large ones as well. A lot of these areas are protected areas.
Yeah, and I was just going to mention, because of that, the marine life seems to clue in on that. They realize they're not being pursued, and they relax, and so therefore they're much more approachable than the animals I've seen in other areas.
And again, like all the sites we've been talking about, there's both macro and excellent wide angle opportunities there. As far as your options for staying, you've got several options. One really nice one is the Magic Island Resort. Those are some people we recently talked to at the Long Beach show as well, and it's a great place to stay, call home base, and then do some great land-based diving. In addition to doing, if you want to do a liveaboard, you can also complement it with some of these options.
Indeed, and that is a nice combination, which I've done on a number of occasions before. For as much as I love liveaboards, there's much to be said for terra firma if you're in the right place, and that's the thing about these dive resorts. They're not just randomly located. That goes into the placement of these resorts. The key consideration is not just the general aesthetics, although that's important too, but where is the best diving, and typically they are located right there in the thick of it.
It looks right off this, right swim from the pool to the drop off, and you've got some pretty good diving right there at Magic Island. Here's some pictures of the accommodations. As you can see, really nice, clean, and environment. And our next stop is we're going to talk about Dumaguete and the island of Apo Island, which is just a short 20-30 minute boat ride from there.
Indeed.
So Dumaguete is probably one of the top 2 or 3 muck diving places in the Philippines, if not the world.
I would agree.
think it's a phenomenal place. Anilao is right up there too, which we do a lot of trips there, a lot of workshops there. But the house reefs just right off of some of the places like Atmosphere where I've stayed are incredible. You see these snake eels. You've got the mandarin fish there. You've got all the big 5 octopus that you're looking for.
It's really much easier to think of. In fact, I'm having trouble thinking of any of these exotic critters that are not there. But there probably are 1 or 2, but really anything in the way of exotic macro critters, they can pretty much.
And dive guides are excellent there too. They help you, just like some of the other places you may have been, pointing out by the time you perfected the shot of 1 frogfish, they've lined up 2 or 3 more for you to.
No waiting for something to shoot. Definitely. That's for sure. Another thing that I especially like at many of these Philippine dive sites is the dark volcanic sand bottom. And in terms of just aesthetics, just viewing the animals, if nothing else, but especially photographing them, it really helps them stand up.
And Dumaguete is a great opportunity to see some behavior. When we were there, we saw mating octopus and saw a lot of territorial action going on. And, there was this one spot that had a lot of these urchins. This image here, and
in fact, I have to just comment. I'm more than a little bit envious of this shot here, Ron. A little juvenile red emperor snapper tucked down in the among the spines of a fire urchin.
Yeah, you got to be careful getting close to those guys. But thanks, I appreciate that. But just a short boat ride is Apo Island, and this is where if you have snorkelers with you or non-divers, Apo Island is great. And where we stay is a place called Atmosphere Resort, and they actually have, in addition to dive guides, they have snorkel guides. So they'll pair you up and take you out, so the snorkelers will see just as much. But lots of turtles, beautiful reefs. It's actually a wall that drops off, and pretty swift current in certain times of the day, and you dive that, and it has a lot of schooling fish. And then you can go in and finish your dive off in the shallows and see a lot of things in the shallows to explore.
I think, in my experience, some of the nicest underwater scenery in the Philippines, and it also throughout the Philippines, but especially at Apo, such a great example of reef stewardship. We hear a lot about marine protected areas or marine national parks, and sadly, in a lot of places in the world, that's just lip service, and it's really just someone putting money in their pocket. But the Philippines, more than anywhere else I can think of, it really is working. The locals have a stake in it, and they believe in it, and they take it very personally. They are there to make sure that the reefs are protected, and it's a win-win situation. That the locals benefit from the tourism, therefore they have incentive to follow the rules and make sure that the protected areas really are protected. And that's virtually every one of these places. As soon as the boat pulls up, the locals come paddling out to say hi, and they're very friendly.
Very friendly. They have different wares they'll bargain with you on.
But you can tell there's always someone who's in charge of the reefs, and they take great pride in their marine park. And people do follow the guidelines.
As do the dive masters. They'll help you if your buoyancy is not quite what it should be. So the next stop is in Dumaguete, and this is the Atmosphere Resort. And this is a resort and spa. And you hear that term, dive resort thrown around a lot out there. But this truly is a first-class resort, probably one of the best ones I've been to in Asia. From the accommodations to the pool, the food that you order off menus, the diving just off of there, it's valet dive service. And then the spa itself, absolutely. The spa itself is incredible. It's one of the best spas, and I consider myself a spa aficionado when I travel. This is an example of one of the rooms there. They also have family rooms, multiple bedrooms, outdoor bathrooms, and so it really gives you that exotic feeling, and just beautifully appointed. They're all very new, and all are very close to, wrapped around the pool area, and then some are tucked in quietly back below, but the grounds are just immaculate.
Indeed. I've not had the pleasure yet of staying at Atmosphere, but I have dived that area, and it's worth going back to many times.
Bohol, I think you dove this area.
Yeah,
too.
and again, this has been by liveaboard, but certainly another one of the highlights of the whole region. Balikasag Island in particular is one that stands out in my mind for the tremendous schooling fish action there. There's also dramatic walls and black coral forests and huge sponges and so on. But there's a school of big eye jacks there that rivals that I've seen anywhere in the world. But really, throughout the whole region there, as we were saying earlier, not just one attraction, but many. And at the same site where you have awesome schooling fish and deep drop-offs, you also have incredible critters.
Oh, I look forward to visiting there.
The only problem is choosing which lens to go with. But
That's
again,
always the challenge. But
that's what part of the advantage of going with an experienced group leader and knowledgeable guides is they can give you a pretty good sneak preview of what to expect. Certainly on most macro photographers' bucket list there, blue ring octopus, just another example of some of the many exotic critters that can be found in the region.
Those are amazing to photograph, as well as a lot of different species of frogfish.
I think
smaller than a dime, much smaller, up to very large frogfish that I've run into there. This is something I'm looking forward to. Maybe open.
Yeah, I've not actually been there, but the Chocolate Hills is well known as a cool topside attraction, and this is obviously taken during a moist time of year with lots of greenery and so on. But I don't know, but I have to guess that the name comes from during dry season, where indeed it looks like a bunch of Hershey's chocolate kisses that are maybe melting
have
in
you
the
run
sun
into one of these little guys?
I have, not in the Philippines, but yeah, the tarsier.
Yes,
among the world's smallest primates, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Just cute little guys, and I'd like to get some nice images of those guys too.
Indeed.
So this is the resort. There's a couple that we have. The Amunaini Resort, and it's a sort of a smaller boutique resort. Very nice, very accommodating to divers. Great service there, great food. So they also have spas and massages, and you'll find that throughout the Philippines. Very reasonably priced massages. I remember Malapascua, going back a little bit. It was very inexpensive. You do your dive, get out, and get a massage right on the beach.
It's a very easy habit to get into. The only problem I find is adjusting back to life in the real world.
True. So the Umanini is really, really beautiful resort. They've got a nice negative edge pool, and they're located right on the beach there. Beautiful sand beach as well. Here's some more images of the different accommodations that you have there and the pool. And then the Magic Ocean Resorts. I've heard that's a very nice resort.
I have heard that as well. Apparently, just newly opened as of July, so it's very new. And again, very luxurious as well, with large bungalows, private balconies, amazing views, all the comforts and amenities.
And it seems like every time one of these new resorts open, they try to outdo what's already there and really step it up a notch. So definitely give Magic Oceans a try, and probably check them out while I'm over there too, to see how nice they are.
Sounds good.
So Sea Explorers, you're familiar with this organization?
Yeah, it's Sea Explorers is not just one resort, but actually an organization that specializes in a number of different locations in the Philippines, and can arrange for you to visit not only one, but multiple locations if you like. And
do a dive safari, if you will.
Indeed.
Travel around, and they're really the pioneers of that area. They've been there quite a while, and know where the great diving is, and know where accommodations, I think, of all different price ranges too.
And I'm sure they can customize itineraries to match your particular interests and preferences and so on.
And all of these that we're going through are all partners of Blue Water, and we'll be going through at the end some specials. So these are some really nice places to consider. Sea Explorers, maybe after doing a liveaboard, either with us or another liveaboard, tag on an extra few days and try some other places. And
it's a great way to, as many different sites as the liveaboards cover. There's bound to be some that they don't. It's a great way to kind of round it out.
And maybe go back to a favorite.
Indeed.
So Malapascua, Cebu, we've talked about these places. They have properties there. Bohol, a couple of properties there as well. That we can coordinate for you through Blue Water Travel. And the Pura Vida Beach Resort, Turtle Bay Dive Resort, very nice.
Darwin, by the way, the Pura Vida, some of the best macro diving in the world, I believe.
That gives that's usually one, arguably two the macro diving. That's the black sand you were
Yes,
talking
indeed.
about. Beautiful backdrop and great place. We'll be hitting that on the liveaboard. Speaking of the liveaboard, the Philippine Siren is one of the new boats in the area. It was built in 2013, and I've been on the Siren fleet as
have I?
you.
Yeah.
And they are a top-notch organization. First-class service, dive valet
Absolutely.
service. Food is phenomenal. The suites are really nice. In-suite bathrooms, showers, all of that.
All the comforts of home, and yet you're at the dive site all the time.
It really is, and computers in your, usually they're
Flashing.
networked to a drive that has movies if you have time to watch movies, but you can look at your pictures on them, and they include all your dive equipment. It's a really
how's this for a dining room with an open air view of
love it.
fantastic
This is a
surroundings?
signature of the Siren fleet, I think.
Indeed.
It's, every one I've been on has this. It's great. The upper deck is great for stargazing, and sometimes I slept up there. Sometimes you go up there and it's beautiful out there. Don't have to worry about mosquitoes or no-see-ums when you're out there. It's pretty nice. And then this is the nice lounge area.
Not too shabby.
And this is the area we will be doing our photo workshops in. Actually, have the TV up there, so probably put a few people to sleep as comfy as those chairs are. Not from
it has nothing to do with the
workshops,
material, right?
but probably those chairs. But we do have a Visasa's trip coming up. It's a 12-day, and this is a special itinerary that Blue Water and Scott Geitler have put together to really highlight the best of the Southern Philippines. We're going to be hitting all the top places, both macro and wide angle on this trip, doing workshops throughout, photo reviews, one-on-one, the typical stuff that we do in these workshops. And this is going to be a great place to perfect your art of photography.
Absolutely. As I've done that, more or less, that itinerary before with Philippine Siren, and can't recommend it highly enough. It just seems to be the ideal combination of wide angle and macro on a beautiful yacht run by seasoned pros. Everything about the Siren
and nitrox,
is
so
a
you
class
can
act.
dive as much as you want, pretty much.
Indeed. And as Ron was saying, truly ballet diving. The experienced dive masters who check the current beforehand, drop you in the ideal location, and then you just dive wherever you wish. And wherever you happen to pop up, the dinghy is there to pick you up. With two tenders taking turns picking people up, so you never have more than just a few minutes wait to be picked up, and all the comforts of home. And just a
little different than diving in our backyard here in California.
Yeah, right? Certainly, actually, in quite a few ways.
And then we just recently added a trip, and it's already filling up fast. Is at the tail end after you get done with that 12-day, why not go and relax at Atmosphere Resort and Spa? Do some world-class diving right there off the shore. You've got Apple Island, short boat ride, all the things that we just spoke about. So we've got a special rate on this as well to tag on to the other trips. So it'll be a great adventure. While you go all that way, why not stay in?
Absolutely, and that's always my preference. Anytime they can get in more awesome dives, of course, but in particular when you're traveling to the far side of the world, much of the expense is simply getting there.
It is.
And once you have a taste of the Philippines diving, you're not going to want to leave. So it makes all kinds of sense if you can swing it to combine them and do both if possible.
And we actually started off today. There was a picture of a whale shark, and that was actually photographed in Oslo, Cebu. And that's a short little day trip. You take the ferry across over to Cebu and a little shuttle, and you go over with the Atmosphere staff, and they take you there, and you can swim with the whale sharks and photograph the whale sharks. And it's a unique experience. It's different from other places that I've been able to be in the water with whale sharks, but it really is a unique experience.
Anytime you get to swim with giant spotted fish, that's a good day, isn't it?
Pretty cool. So maybe tell about the other specials we have.
So we do have several exclusive Blue Water specials on offer, including with pressure shark divers at Malapascua. And again, just such an awesome destination. Just for the thresher sharks alone, it's well worth going there, but lots of other great stuff to see as well, and a top-notch operation. The special we're offering includes 10% off dives and accommodations at Thresher Shark Divers, free nitrox on all shark dives or wreck dives, and that is good through August 23rd, with the booking date to qualify for that.
Then next we talked about the Magic Resorts Group, 15% discount that they're actually offering, and And again, any of these specials, you can contact our Blue Water Travel Group, and they can tell you all the details. There are some limitations on dates, as all good deals have expiration dates, but this is a really good opportunity to try some of these new places,
Sure.
either before or after maybe doing a Liverpool.
And our third special today from Evolution Resorts, again at Malapascua, 15% discount off accommodations and diving. And again, this is one of the top spots for tech divers, if that's your preference. And again, there are some date limitations, but all three of these awesome specials, they'd be totally worth going, even if not for the special prices, but that makes it all the more.
And one thing you'll find about the Philippines, it is very reasonably priced, because I know we all struggle with not only budget and time off, but you try to get the most dives in.
I think it really is some of the best value in the diving world. Also, just happens to be some of the best diving.
Most beautiful, absolutely. And then next we have at Atmosphere Resort. Now this is the place that we just talked about, but there's actually, if you don't want to wait till next year, there's a great opportunity to go before then. It's not a guided trip or a led trip, but still you're going to have a lot of fun there and still experience the incredible diving, and it's during the really good time of diving as well. So these are some specials that Atmosphere has provided Blue Water Travel, and we're passing those on to our clients.
Oh, and yet another special for all branches Sea Explorers. Actually, two different deals. Deal number one, pay for 5 nights, get 1 night free. Pay 5 all-day diving days and get 1 all-day diving day free. Deal number 2, 7+1 group special, so 7 paying guests, and the 8th guest goes for free.
Sounds like Adam and Katie have been pretty busy in travel, working overtime. Wow, there's another one. So we've got, we mentioned this one before, Amunini Beach Resort. This is a 7-night special, and great deal. You've got 10 dive packages, and you can always add more dives onto these. But we try to put the packages sort of middle of the road average, what people would like. But there's also an unlimited dive package. So if you're that 4 or 5 dive a day person, then that might be a better bargain for you. But those are great rates, and this one needs to be booked by July 31st. We're coming up on that deadline.
So once again, just want to thank all of you for joining us here in our Blue Water Dive Travel webinar. And again, just remind you, this is an ongoing series, so hopefully you'll be joining us for the future webinars as well. Just another word or two about discounts. We are offering a $100 discount for everyone watching this webinar today, so please remember to mention that when you call about inquiring about any of these trips. And just one little last thought I want to get in there about the Philippines. Wherever you're diving in the Philippines, land-based or live aboard, that Philippines hospitality is just amazing. And it's
no place like it in the world, really.
It really is true.
Is no place. I feel very comfortable going there, and I really enjoy my time spent there.
I hope you guys can make it as well. Thanks again for joining us. And for now, this is Blue Water signing off. Thanks, everyone.
So now we're going to take some questions that we've got from the audience. We've had a few coming in, and we're going to be going through those questions with you and answering them to the best of our ability. And some we may defer you to our travel group, but I think we could probably answer most of them. So the first question.
Actually, one from Tim. What do you do during the workshop?
Maybe we'll both take a step at this, because we both have different techniques, different experiences. But pre-trip, we actually send out surveys trying to find out what people want to improve in their photography, what type of setups you have, from compact to DSLR. And then we really cater those workshops to you. On Philippines trips, we'll be doing a lot of macro, strobe positioning, as well as wide angle, ambient light photography, probably some silhouettes, because you're going to be diving with the thresher sharks and the whale sharks. So really, it depends on the trip, but that's the type of thing we'll do there. And then also do a lot of Lightroom classes. So a lot of people are very interested nowadays, and they take all these images. How do I organize them? How do I post-process them? And then how do I publish them up to a website or whatever they want to do with them? So Lightroom and post-processing and organization of images is also a key component of our workshops that I've done.
Absolutely. I would agree with all of that. And just mention, as Ron said, that we do cater to a wide variety of experience levels. I think there's maybe some perception out there that, geez, I don't know if I really belong in a photo group because we're going to a photo class because I don't have as much experience or as fancy gear as some of these people. And please don't be intimidated by that. Typical trips, we have the full range of experience levels from absolute beginners to those who do have more experience and fancier gear. And we speak to all of those needs. And that's one of the nice things about our groups are small. And so we can really approach it on a very individualized basis.
And trust me, it's not always who has the biggest, baddest camera that gets the best
for
images.
Sure.
And so definitely join us on one of the trips.
The next one, actually, how common are the thresher sharks?
So the question was, how common are thresher shark sightings? And I would say generally very reliable. Of course, this is nature, so there's no guarantees from day to day. But typically, say a week-long stay at Malapascua, it's almost certainly you'll see thresher sharks on at least several of the days. Some people are luckier than others. In rare occasions, people have seen them only one day or maybe not at all, but that's extremely rare. Much more common is on multiple days.
Absolutely.
When I was there, we saw them 5 days out of 6.
And I was there 3 days diving. We saw them 3 out of 3 days, multiple on 2 of those 3 days.
Indeed. And they are notoriously shy. And for the most part, even if you see one off in the distance, that's considered pretty good. And I find just to see an animal like that at all is very rewarding. But we actually had multiple very close passes and within almost touching distance on a few occasions.
Sure.
Next question. Are there any concerns from malaria?
The question was, are there any concerns about malaria? And the Philippines in general is in the part of the world where malaria is a possibility. I can't speak to the specifics in terms of each particular location. As always, it makes sense to contact if you're in the U.S., the Center for Disease Control, or speak with your doctor about precautions. In general, I'd say, at least in terms of my own practices, pretty low chances for most places. For liveaboards, I think you'd have very little to worry about. If you're staying on land, it will depend on the particular region where you are. It can't hurt to take precautions, though. So I'd say, if in doubt, follow that.
And just use the common sense you'd use when you're maybe living down in the south with mosquitoes or something. At nighttime or dusk, have a long sleeve shirt or don't be bait.
Yeah.
What currency is used?
The Filipino dollar is I don't know the
Filipino peso.
Peso.
And the question was what currencies are used and what are tipping practices and so on.
So the peso, I'm not up to speed on the latest exchange rate.
Yeah,
but,
it's generally things are very affordable in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So and of course exchange rate vary from day to day. Tipping is always appreciated and I'd say appropriate in most situations, but it is not the kind of thing where it's absolutely expected. For instance, the Filipinos are very generous in spirit about that, and I think it's in many cases a pleasant surprise if they are tipped. But certainly on the liveaboards and at the resorts as well, it's if you feel like you've received good service, it's very much appreciated. Absolutely. And certainly very beneficial and helpul to the people who work so hard.
They do work very hard.
Our
typically they'll pool those tips, and we give guidelines on things, and typically a $5 per tank average or plus or minus, and depending on what you feel is necessary. But that's usually a general rule of thumb. But if you go online, there's many blogs that have discussed this topic. The question is, would you consider the Philippines safe? Let's see. Living in Los Angeles, I would say yes. But
much safer than my daily commute here. That's for sure.
I think every place you go in the world today, there's going to be dangers that exist, and you have to just take certain precautions. When you do fly into Manila, you will see a little bit more of a presence of some military or some guards. But once you get outside of there, haven't had any issues. There are some islands way down south that there's been some trouble in. Obviously, we're not running trips to those islands, but I've never felt unsafe in any of those.
Yeah,
and
I would
I've toured
certainly agree with
villages,
that.
and I've never felt unsafe. And definitely all of the resorts are very safe. Okay, well, I think that wraps up today. Appreciate all of the great questions. And if you have more questions, please contact our Blue Water Travel Group, and they'll take care of you. Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone.